This is Optimal Startup Daily, episode 611, How to Increase Sales, 10 Effective Closing Requirements by Brian Tracy of briantracy.com. And I'm your narrator, Dan, and I'm going to keep this intro for the Friday episode nice and short for you. So let's get right to the post and start optimizing your life. How to Increase Sales, 10 Effective Closing Requirements by Brian Tracy of briantracy.com. Before you do anything, you have to do something else first. Before you ask the customer to make a buying decision, there are a series of bases you must touch. Any attempt to bring the sales process to a conclusion with even one of these elements missing can cost you the sale. Learn how to increase sales with these 10 effective closing requirements. How to improve your sales skills. Number 1, is your product or service desirable? First, the customer must want what you're selling. The customer's buying desire must be aroused sufficiently before you ask him to make a decision. The customer must have told you clearly that he likes what you have shown him, and he must have expressed a desire to enjoy the benefits of your offer. If you attempt to get a decision from him prior to this point, you may turn him off and kill the sale. 2, does the customer believe in your company? Second, the customer must believe in your company and yourself. The customer must trust you and be convinced that you and your company have the capability to deliver on your promises. In your presentation, you must have made it perfectly clear to the customer that you are a sound and reliable organization to deal with in order for them to truly believe in your company. 3, is your product or service in need? Third, in order to help with the buyer decision process, the customer must need what you are selling. It must be obvious to both you and him that the product will help him to solve his problem or achieve his goal in a cost-effective way. Top salespeople will refuse to accept a sales order from a customer if they are not convinced that this is what the customer genuinely needs, even if the customer wants it and has expressed an interest in buying it. 4, can the customer use what you are selling? Fourth, the customer must be able to use it. Top salespeople will not sell someone a product that the customer is not capable of using to its best advantage. They won't sell a computer or computer software to a person who is not computer literate. They won't sell advanced sports equipment to an amateur. They won't sell complex machinery to a small operation. Top salespeople always take time to make sure the customer can get the very maximum value out of what they are selling. 5, can your customer afford what you are selling? 5th, the customer must be able to afford it. The customer must not only have the money, but must be willing to part with it. The customer must have sufficient funds to be able to buy the product without ending up strapped for cash. 6, what are you offering? 6th, the customer must completely understand the full nature and scope of the offer. The customer must be clear about what he's getting and why, and how to use it. The customer must understand the obligations he is entering into, and the ramifications and consequences of the purchase. The salesperson must patiently walk the customer through these steps so that the customer absolutely knows what he or she is getting into with the purchase. 7, how to increase sales. You must be eager. 7th, in order to learn how to increase sales, the salesperson must be eager to make each and every sale. He must be positive and confident about the benefits that the prospect will enjoy, and must be determined to help the prospect enjoy them. 8, help with the buyer decision process. 8th, the salesperson must have sound closing skills. The only way you learn anything is by practicing over and over, and this includes closing skills. One of the best things you can do is to write out your closing arguments and questions on paper and then practice them in front of a mirror. You should try your closing techniques with your children and your spouse. You should use them in your personal and business life. If you remember that a closing technique is simply a way of helping a person to make a decision, you will actually find it enjoyable and fun to practice different methods. 9, carry on through objections. In order to learn how to increase sales, you must be prepared to hear a no and continue selling. You must be willing to ask for the order and be put off, either with an objection or delay to another time in order to affect the buyer decision process. And 10, use silence. Finally, the salesperson must be prepared to remain silent after asking the closing question. The very best salespersons are masters in the use of silence during the selling conversation. Not only are they extremely good at listening to the customer and absorbing what he is really saying, but they are also skilled at remaining perfectly quiet after they have asked a key question of any kind. The longer the silence goes on after you've asked a closing question, the more likely it is that the prospect will buy. but the person who speaks first usually loses during the buyer decision process. If you break the silence out of nervousness, the customer will sense an opportunity to procrastinate on the buying decision or come up with another objection that cannot be answered at this meeting. It takes tremendous discipline to sit quietly while the prospect mulls over your question, but it pays off in the end. You just listened to the post titled, How to Increase Sales, 10 Effective Closing Requirements by Brian Tracy of briantracy.com. And thanks to Brian for today's post. He is the chairman and CEO of Brian Tracy International. Brian and his company help people achieve personal and business goals quickly and easily. He has studied, researched, written, and spoken for 30 years in the fields of economics, history, business, philosophy, and psychology, and is the top-selling author of over 70 books. His talks and seminars on leadership, selling, self-esteem, goals, strategy, creativity, and success psychology are super effective at both creating immediate changes and long-term results. Brian is also active in community and national affairs and is the president of 3 companies headquartered in Solana Beach, California. And you can come by his site to learn a lot more and to see some great content, and that once again is briantracy.com. But that's it for today here on Optimal Startup Daily. Hope you enjoyed the show. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you back here tomorrow and over the weekend, where your optimal life awaits.